Fox News alert on some bad news for the Justice Department as it tries to deal with the scandal that's leading to calls for the Attorney General to resign. Welcome to America Live, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, and the news has been breaking now for the past hour on this scandal. We have been reporting in recent days on how the DOJ is taking fire for spying on journalists, including the Associated Press and Fox News correspondent James Rosen, all without notice to the spied upon reporters, in what many view as a major violation of First Amendment rights. The scandal has now reached a point where we are hearing growing calls from the left and the right for Mr. Holder to step down or to be fired. So the DOJ reached out to major media outlets in recent days saying, come in, let's talk, let's have a chat. Now, Eric Holder did that because President Obama ordered him to. But it turns out Eric Holder may have mucked up the effort because he wanted to have that little chat off the record. And hour by hour, all day today, we have heard a growing number of news organizations saying no, no, and no. Guy Benson is a radio talk show host and political editor of townhall.com. It's like that time, I tried to throw a party and nobody came. And it's like no one showed up, and it makes you feel bad. But everybody has rejected his invitation. They said, we would love to be there, Eric. Mr. Holder will show up, but we're not doing anything behind closed doors and off the record. We are news organizations, and we get paid to shine a light into the dark corners, not to keep the public in the dark. Your thoughts on it?
Well, Megyn, if this weren't such a serious principle at stake here, it would be laugh out loud funny. I mean, the irony is rich and it is self-evident. Think about it this way. You have the Attorney General who's trying to do damage control right now with the news media that he's really ticked off over the last couple of weeks with these revelations that, as you say, he's been spying on a number of journalists without their knowledge. So he wants to assuage those fears and say, no, don't worry. We really understand. We value press freedom. We're maybe a little sorry about our secrecy. So come on into my office, but don't report anything that's said. I mean, are you serious? You must be joking. And Fox News, among others, the New York Times included, aren't laughing. And as you say, they've spurned the request and they won't be showing up, and good for them. Well, and
the question is, do you bring the bureau chiefs in to try to, as Ron Fournier put it in an article today, let me correct myself, Jennifer Rubin, who's coming on here at 2:30, put it in an article today, to try to insulate yourself, to try to plead with the bureau chiefs and insulate yourself, and then tell those bureau chiefs that they may not speak to any of their reporters who are aggressively reporting on the Holder spying situation. And is that situation, even close to a remedy or getting close to a remedy for repairing what he's done?
Well, of course not. And I mean, the whole thing is a complete farce. It's embarrassing that they even made this request to begin with. They've been slapping the press in the face, unbeknownst to the press now, for a number of years. And now their big kiss and make up moment is an off-the-record session, as you say, with bureau chiefs, where I don't know, what are they going to do? Bring them in there, massage their egos a little bit? Oh, we care about you. We value you. And by the way, if you mention anything that was said in this meeting to your reporters, what, are the subpoenas going to start flying again to figure out who leaked what to their own employees? It's a total travesty. Right. And the news organizations who are going along with this so far, based on my current information, the Washington Post and ABC News among them, what are you thinking? You got to get with Fox News and the New York Times and the Associated Press and the Huffington Post, for crying out loud,
CNN,
who have all
National
united.
Journal, McClatchy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's amazing. Eric Holder has managed to do the unthinkable. He has, at least temporarily, united the Washington press corps against the Obama administration and somehow continues to make it worse. I have to wonder who is managing his damage control and his public relations strategy here. It's
an interesting point, because you don't often see Fox News shoulder to shoulder with the Huffington Post. And
or
yet
that's
where we find and the New York Times. And yes, that's where we find ourselves, because it's a matter of journalistic ethics now, and whether we should be agreeing to have this behind closed doors, off the record, come to Jesus discussion with the Attorney General, who is alleged to be the wrongdoer. It's not like he's some impartial person who wants to come in and say, let me clean it up and you guys help me clean it up. He did it. I mean, the reports are that he personally signed off on the subpoena that named James Rosen as a co-conspirator in a crime prior to telling Congress this past May, this month, that he never did such a thing, that he's never been involved in even the potential criminal prosecution of anybody. So he's the one who did it. He wants us to go in there and advise him on how to protect ourselves from him.
Yeah, Megyn, I'm speechless almost. I mean, you have the president putting the attorney general in charge of the investigation into himself. I'm sure that will be unsparing and thorough, right? I mean, the whole thing. Let me float a modest proposal here. Since the attorney general was the one who, by the DOJ's own admission, vetted and signed off on this warrant that treated James Rosen as a criminal for doing his job, and now he's trying to smooth things over with the press. How about this? Instead of one of these off-the-record sessions, hush-hush behind closed doors, as he would prefer, how about an on-the-record, nationally televised interview with James Rosen? And James Rosen can ask him the questions such as, why did you want to see my personal emails? Why did you tell Congress explicitly that you never even heard about something like this happening when, in fact, you did it yourself? That's the sort of transparency the American people are demanding at this point. And the fact that the Attorney General is so far behind the curve and the White House hasn't fired the guy yet is mystifying.
And again, I mean, I say again, I've been saying all along, you need somebody in that room who's going to say to him, before we say anything in exchange about how to fix this problem that you created, as far as targeting journalists goes, how many of us have you spied on? What are the names and how many times? Let's fully define the scope of the problem before we set out to fix it. That has yet to be done, Guy. NPR asked him about it, and he said he cannot remember how many times he's done this.
Oh, sure.
Well, there are records, and it can be determined. And if we're going to go forward and have a kumbaya moment and try to, let the healing begin, then we need to know how deep the problem runs. I'll give you the last word.
And by the way, if he says that he can't remember, that at least says to me that there are more instances out there that we don't know about yet. And that would follow. That would make sense. If it was just two, if it was just the AP and James Rosen, those are pretty easy to remember, two instances. He says he can't quite remember, which to me at least leads me to believe that there's a lot more here that we have yet to discover, and I think journalists and the public have a right to know.
I mean, at this point in particular, because we need to know what we're dealing with at the Department of Justice and whether we really do still have a free press in this country. Guy, thank you.
Thank you, Megyn.